Hello and greetings from the Frankfurt airport. I am, as you can see, in the airport on my way to Ukraine. But I wanted, before that trip starts in earnest, I wanted to record and send this message. I want to thank Hovannes Ishkanian for the invitation to send this message to all of you on December 10th, the day Constitution Day for the Republic of Artsakh, and the day commemorating the signing of the UN Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. So this is the 75th anniversary of that day, as all of you know, and it's a very sad anniversary. Yesterday, your time, would have been the 75th anniversary of the Genocide Convention, and I think this has been a terrible, catastrophic fall for the Genocide Convention, with the genocide in Artsakh and the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And I'm hoping we can all continue to work together to bring this horrible crime to an end and to seek justice and repair. I were there in person in beautiful Yerevan, in beautiful Armenia, but unfortunately, by the genocide in Artsakh. We send our deepest condolences to all Armenians everywhere, and especially to the Artsaksis who have lost their homes and their former lives. We can only imagine the shock and horror of this experience. We remain steadfastly in solidarity with the Artsakh people. I don't want to take up too much time with this video recording, but I would like to make a few basic points about the events in Artsakh since September 19th and what it means for the Lemkin Institute's work going forward. Now, the first point I want to make is that what happened in Artsakh on September 19th and during the 9 months predating that, and really starting in 2020, but we can go back to 2016, and even to the 1980s. But let's stick with what happened on September 19th. And the Lemkin Institute's position is that what occurred was beyond a doubt a genocide, not ethnic cleansing or some other term that is often used as a euphemism for genocide. I think many of the very powerful nations that in the background were somehow supporting materially or indirectly the genocide that played itself out on September 19th would like to see this as ethnic cleansing. Ethnic cleansing is not a crime, really, in international law. It can be the crime of humanity of forced displacement, but ethnic cleansing itself as a term is not a crime, and it's considered a softer crime or a softer process than genocide is. So it's in the interests of very powerful states to call what happened on September 19th ethnic cleansing rather than genocide. But the Lemkin Institute views ethnic cleansing as a pattern of genocide. And we're also aware of the other patterns that played themselves out on September 19th, including massacre and various atrocity crimes, the destruction of property, and the ongoing destruction of cultural heritage, as well as Ilham Aliyev's own, openly stated genocidal Armenophobia. So all of these facts, right, all of this is evidence of genocide for the Lemkin Institute, and I think it's a very clear case of genocide. The fact that this was genocide matters in many ways. And here are the three most important that I view. One is that it is imperative that the world understands the significance of the forced displacement of the Artsakh community and the Artsakh Armenians. This displacement brought about the near total destruction, as you know, of an ancient community. And if nothing is done to redress this wrong, it will be one of the most successful genocides in history. So I think that it's imperative that we press the issue of genocide, because genocide is the destruction of a group or of an identity, and that's precisely what has happened with Artsakh and the Artsakh community and the Artsakh way of life, which was very closely tied and relied on the land for its sustenance. I think we need to make that point internationally again and again. Number two, it is important that we call this genocide for all of our accountability efforts. We still do not know the full story of what went on behind the scenes before September 19th, when Azerbaijan invaded. So we don't know the full story of which countries were doing what. The past 3 years, in fact, are shrouded in a strange silence on so many sides. So the Russian side, the American side, the European side, and even in Armenia, it's been unclear what's been going on behind the scenes. And we believe that there are many actors who may be legally complicit in this genocide, apart from simply Azerbaijan and Turkey. So it is very important, I think, that we place pressure on the on international justice mechanisms, such as the International Criminal Court, to open an investigation of the Artsakh case that would not rule out complicity in genocide as a charge. So we need greater information to figure out who is complicit, but I think it is improbable that this genocide occurred without complicity from several different sides, from several very powerful nations. So I think we need to keep pushing to get to the bottom of that for the reasons of justice, accountability, but also reparation and, possible restoration of the territory of Artsakh to its indigenous Artsakh, the Armenian inhabitants. And the third reason I think it's important that we recognize what happened in Artsakh as genocide, is that it is very important that we continue to emphasize the ongoing threat from the regime of Ilham Aliyev, which, as a genocidal regime, having committed genocide in the recent past, does not follow the same rules as a normal state. Genocidal regimes tend not to be satisfied without a total victory over their imagined cosmic enemies, and it would be naive to believe that Azerbaijan will be satisfied merely with the forced displacement of the Artsakh Armenians. He has many times stated publicly, and it's on his the website of his public speeches in English as well as in Azeri, that he's interested in lots of other regions within now the Republic of Armenia, a recognized sovereign state. And his statements about Western Azerbaijan testify to this. So Western Azerbaijan is just a continuation, or this concept of Western Azerbaijan is just a continuation of the threats he's been making against Artsakh, but also against the Republic of Armenia, including the capital of Yerevan, for many, many years now. And so there's no reason to think he will stop with Artsakh. I do think efforts of the international community and powerful states are going to be important in determining the outcome of Ilham Aliyev's threats. But he will remain, that regime will remain a threat so long as he is given impunity to continue with his genocidal, Armenophobic ideology and statements. And as long as we're calling what happened in Artsakh ethnic cleansing and referring to it in vague terminology, this grants him basically impunity while protecting also those states that are complicit in his actions. So genocidal regimes, which Ilham Aliyev oversees, which Ilham Aliyev is, also tend to flout international law. So we've seen this again and again. And they thrive in this context of impunity, and they often become radicalized, more violent, more destructive over time. And so I think we need to keep shining a light on the genocidal nature of the Aliyev regime, no matter what else is going on in geopolitically within the South Caucasus region. Now, given the genocide in Artsakh and pardon me, given the genocide in Artsakh, it is also important to think about what can be done in the future. And so, you know, I think people are in fact doing the right things, and you know, given this devastation and this catastrophe, I'm very heartened by the response of Armenian society and the Armenian community in the Republic of Armenia, but also worldwide, as well as the responses of Artsaksis themselves, having lost so much. One of the most important things to do after a genocide of this nature is to collect testimony. And I know that's already being done by one of our partner, an institute we often partner with, the CTFJ, as well as by other organizations. So that's incredibly important, is to collect testimony of what happened. This will be important legally and also historically going forward. The second important thing to do is to keep Artsaksis together and the culture alive. We can look to the Yazidis, for example, for ways in which this has been done in the present, in the wake of a total displacement from an ancestral territory. I know of some new NGOs that have popped up to do this work, and it's incredibly important that it continue to be done, so that if there is a time when Artsakh is restored to Armenia or to the control of Artsakhi Armenians, and if the Republic of Artsakh is restored within its ancestral territory, there will be still a strong Artsakh presence and community and cultural heritage to return, to bring back to the land and to rebuild the destroyed infrastructure, including the destroyed cultural heritage there. It's the third important thing to do is it's increasingly important that we do legal work. So I'm not a lawyer, but I think that international legal work is imperative, because the story of Artsakh is not finished. It's not over yet. It may feel like it's over and it may seem that it's over, but I think we have to keep hope that perhaps in the future, you know, Artsakh will be restored to its indigenous inhabitants. And that brings me to my fourth point, which is that we can never give up on Artsakh, and the Lemkin Institute will not give up on Artsakh, and we will not give up on the hope of its restoration. This is one of the most important things we can do in genocide prevention work, is to make sure there's accountability and real justice for the victims of genocide, and that would include, in this case, the restoration of the land to its rightful inhabitants who have a right under the UN Charter and other mechanisms to self-determination. And finally, I want to suggest that Artsaksis start considering, especially members of the Artsakh government in exile, start considering quasi-judicial or extrajudicial means of making the case, that the legal case, that Artsakh should be restored to the Republic of Artsakh and to the democratically elected government of the Artsakh people, and that the Artsakh people should be able to return. And here I'm suggesting considering opening a case, or exploring the idea of opening a case at the Permanent People's Tribunal. And so perhaps that's something that can be discussed in the Q&A. I won't be there for that, but the Lemkin Institute will always be available. Our resources will be available, and we will do all that we can to help out in solidarity with the people of Artsakh. So I wish you all a wonderful conference. I wish I could be there with you. I'm there in spirit, and I send you my well wishes from Ukraine, where I will be on the 10th. And I hope that we will continue this dialogue, and that Lemkin Institute can continue to be helpful in efforts to secure Artsakh for the Armenian people. Thank you very much.